And welcome to the second part of Striker. If you are joining us from the first video, then welcome. And if you are joining us just by finding this video, then welcome to the Striker Awakening topic. If you're interested in checking out the first video, there is a long discussion in regards to in-depth opinions and details on the Striker pre-awakening. And if you are joining us from that video, then welcome to the next part. So without further ado, let's get started. I have my friend Knight here with me, the original creator of the Striker Mystic Discord, and thank you again for being here. If you guys again don't know what the Striker Mystic Discord is, make sure you guys check out the description down below. It is a Discord with a very massive community of people who have played or know the Striker and Mystic classes, and they have in-depth knowledge on different combinations and guides to use in both PvP and PvE, and I highly encourage you to check that out. So you either are in Striker Awakening, have Striker Awakening already, or you've just unlocked it, and welcome to the Awakening. One of the hardest hitting parts and factors of the Striker, where we have our signature leg drop and our signature face roll brainless grinding classiness of the Ook itself. That's right. So let's go ahead and let's go into details with the Awakening skill tree. And let's move along. Now, in the previous video, some of you guys may have noticed, or in this video, you may notice that we're not going to talk about skill add-ons in this. We will be discussing this as a third topic, so if you're interested in checking something like that out as well, check out the link in the description below, and there's going to be quite a few things to discuss for different varieties of topics. So if you're interested in knowing, again, about some basic mechanics and other mechanics of the game and getting some other opinions, contributing your opinions, check that out. Now, the first thing we have to do when we're coming into Awakening is we need to transition into our stance. For those that don't know, for those that do, you know what I'm talking about. The only thing that I'm going to discuss on this is transitioning into the Awakening. The Striker has a lot of very comfortable and good flowing transitions between his pre-Awakening and Awakening. One of the examples we gave in the previous video, Knight, I'll let you go ahead, is doing our pre-Awakening Twisted Collision into Nimbus Strike, and then holding our F key, or on Xbox, I'm not going to be sure what that is, because at the moment it's not released on console, but it is a good transition into our Skull Crusher as a good example. And if you can do that one more time when it's done cooldown, you'll notice that the flow is very nice. Very, very nice. It's also a good holder for rotations of super armor, not necessarily the rotation you'd want to do, because you want to keep that Skull Crusher available for high damage. But let's discuss that as we go down the tree. So one of the more important things as we go down this tree is we have our Descent of Fury, our move in Awakening stance, which is Shift E. It is a massive DP buff for the class. And Knight, I'll let you go into more details on this buff here.
Easy. All right, so effectively, yes. As Fake described, Shift E in Awakening will provide us this very powerful buff. Quite a few things stand about this one that is different to a lot of other classes. So on Striker, one, we heal 500 HP. So you can use this in a clutch situation. It not only provides us the 50 DP, which is full-on damage reduction as well, which if you look into other videos can separate from evasion and damage reduction. It just effectively makes you very tanky. The attack speed and the resistance will help you survive in terms of getting away. But the one unique factor with this skill is not only is it super armor while using, it is also super armor while you're moving. No other class besides us and our counterpart, the Mystic, have this unique attribute. Basically, I tend to lock mine. If I'm in Awakening and I move, nothing can CC me. As long as this buff remains, I'm able to get in and out of situations which in, say, our Node War, Conquest War, or any form of GVG, it can make a massive difference to the group where I'm able to get into a situation without blowing up any of my skills and get out not only being tankier, not only able to damage a lot for damage faster, but again, without being able to be CC'd at the same time. Other than that, that's pretty much a clear decide for what the Descent of Fury does. You can obviously lock it and use it in your own fashion at another stage, but Shift E, you're good to go. Did you want me to continue?
Yeah, please. I mean, and then as far as that, we were discussing earlier that the consumption of a full Martial Spirit shard would not stack with this as well.
Oh, correct. The attack speed, yes. So anything innately built into a skill will not stack twice. So our Crouching Wolf and that attack speed do not stack, as much as I'd love them to. That would help us a lot.
That would be dangerously deadly. So do keep that in mind. It's almost like being able to give yourself Crouching Wolf as well as a DP buff in certain situations as well. So just keep in mind. Next, we have our Endless Flight. I'll let you go into more details on this, and then I'm going to throw my opinion into this one.
Sure. Look, honestly, Endless Flight, it's a niche skill. I would honestly not use it as something that you would look for in damage. It doesn't do bad damage, but it does do two things. If the person is standing, it takes 1.5 CCs. It'll be a stun and a stiff at the same time. Its overall damage isn't worth it, but there are a few things you can do. I mean, if you've seen the trailer, I'm sure everyone knows about this. The one and only drag grab. Utterly useless, but really cool to look at. By using your Awakening grab, which is the next skill we'll be discussing, you can basically just do that straight after the skill, and you'll be able to uniquely grab the person and drag them across the ground. Other than that, it is literally completely and utterly useless. I wouldn't really spec into it as something you would use. There's no point. It's just a bit of skill points that you have spare. You're welcome to whack into it. It is only 12 points, so other than that, not much. It's just used by spacebar after crouching.
And in my opinion, to throw into this one, I feel like this move is, you're better off using Crouching Wolf. In the end of this video, we're going to talk about some hotkeys and some unique transitions of Striker. But I would recommend, I feel like you're better off using Crouching Wolf over this move. In my case scenario, I would consider locking this skill. And I would rather have Crouching Wolf just as like a hotkeyed use, because in Awakening for Striker, if you because I feel like they are the same, I prefer having Crouching Wolf hotkeyed, which you can do, and it is used as a transitional skill between pre-awakening and awakening. And the cast, for my opinion, for Endless Flight here takes way too long. That whole entire cast is just a real, just a huge chunk of time as far as I see, and I would rather cast that fast. And on top of that, having the ability to dash backwards, because I feel like if I go ahead and use this, or sorry, if I go ahead and use Endless Flight, which I can't use after the cast of Crouching Wolf, I don't have the ability to dash backwards. I feel like I lose an extra step of mobility, and that is merely my opinion. So take that also. So here I am in Awakening with a grain of salt, transition, dash. And again, which I mentioned earlier in the pre-awaken video, is again with this transitional skill, you aim anywhere else, you can move yourself, if you aim to a 180 anywhere, you'll move in that direction. So aim backwards, move in that direction. So on top of that, when you're in Awakening doing any sort of fighting, you use a transitional and you give yourself that extra mobility. So that is why I lock it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you...
You don't need to use it. Like, you can actually have that unlocked and just tap spacebar. It won't automatically use. And you hold S in Awakening, you can still hop back.
Oh,
So if I do it...
Oh, I see. Oh, I never knew that would consume Crouching Wolf just by touching it. Oh, I never knew that.
Mm-hmm.
But it keeps you in Awakening. Ooh.
Correct. In the past, I won't go into too much detail since it's not relevant anymore. The main reason we locked that ability was that the animation that we used to have for this was incredibly slow, so a lot of us just preferred to hotkey our Crouching Wolf, which is a lot faster. They have recently changed it, so it's not too bad to have it unlocked now. You can choose.
That is wonderful. Never knew that. All right, let's go into Hellbreak, the grab of Striker Awakening. So I am going to start this one off. This is just looks like not like that when grabbed, but when grabbing somebody in pre-awaken?
I was going to say, that's an interesting Hellbreak.
Oh, interesting.
Try again.
Let's try this again. So when grabbing someone in Awakening, it's a short grab. You throw them to the ground. Looks like that. You summon a clone. Gives them a little bit of a love tap on the back. With that being said, I actually don't like using this grab. I feel like it's a waste of time, because I was taught by a great striker, shout out to Jay, that if I lock my Hellbreak, my grab and Awakening, And if I'm in Awakening, I can automatically grab someone with the pre-awaken grab, puts me back into pre-awaken, which sets me up for the ability to do a short cancel or a long cast, and then apply my defensive debuff. So you give yourself that option of if you want to, because again, in my opinion, it's just a short grab. So in my opinion, I would rather give myself the options of wanting to have one of two. And I prefer the transition of into pre-awakening, so I can do my defensive debuff, start off like that, and then do a nice transition skill into my awakened hard hitters or our most effective combos. Anything you want to throw in on that one?
Look, there's not much to add. Look, the shortest thing I could probably explain, Hellbreak, effectively it will have a higher grab success. If you look across the skill, it has a 30% success rate for 1.5 seconds upon using it. If you are fighting a class that's just a witch or a person that simply builds in around a grab evasion, our class is very dependent on that grab to do a lot of damage. So using Hellbreak can help out in terms of success in landing that CC. Now, a lot of people, as you obviously said, you prefer to block it, so you can use your pre-awakening grab even when an awakening. A lot of other people do it as well. But to keep the awakening grab active, they put that on a hotkey, which again, we will discuss later. But you can lock that, put it in your hotkey, and use it later. I don't know how Xbox will work with that, if it does. So mind you, I am a bit lost on that.
Oh, I see. I never knew that.
If Xbox, if Xbox does have a facility of some form of hotkey where you need to press a different button, awesome. You can use that as an alternative way of grabbing with the awakening once you've got it.
Interesting.
But yeah, but other than that, there isn't really much else to it. A more reliable grab, but shorter CC. There are a few, as you saw earlier.
Quite the finesse. Might consider hotkeying that for myself and trying that out. Interesting. And then, all right, so we move down to the next tree. We have just our guard brace training. I mean, this will just level up as you go, so don't really worry about that. Let's focus on our main moves, which is going to be everything else below. So the first one, starting us off, we have Ultimate Crush. What more can you tell us about Ultimate Crush?
It's basically two versions of it. If you're on PC, you'll notice that there is a standard and a Black Spirit version of it.
As well
there
as
are
a quick
two different
transitional
opinions.
move. I'm going to throw in there as well.
Correct. There's a cancel. All right. So I guess talking about the skill on its own, it is a very slow upwinding attack, which has two features. It's a float and an air smash. Air smash basically is re-hitting the person while in the air again. It does do a fair amount of damage at max level, and it will also take away 15 DP. So it's not as powerful as our pre-awakening DP debuff, but it does still do some form of thing. So if you're grinding, it is the only time I would say use it. It is something that can keep you easily enough in awakening while you're grinding mobs and do a decent amount of damage. Now, if you have Black Spirit Rage on your character, which is effectively going to build up over time, we won't go into too much. It's something that will basically be on your screen the minute you hit level 35. You'll be able to do a skill like this. So the default is this animation. Then you'll have an ability to make it look like this. That is the Black Spirit version. It not only hits incredibly hard. Now, some people say it is almost as hard as our normal Skull Crusher. Beg to differ, but we'll see. It also applies the knockdown effect, our better of the two CCs. With using that, you get a critical attack, critical damage increase, along with decreasing the movement speed of the opponent by 20%. But that is the only time I'd use in PvP, is the Black Spirit. There is the cancel, which Fake just mentioned, which is laterally attacking either left or right with just a basic attack, and then using the same command, will cut the first animation out and only do the last two animations.
As well as being able to use that as a transitional skill, because when you transition from pre-awakening into awakening just by hitting C, that's also considered, like as Knight mentioned, a left and right movement. So if you're in pre-awakening and then transition, you can go into that as well.
Correct. Now, there is one more thing. If you're a PC player and you found, as much as I would probably say, the Black Spirit Rage is incredibly difficult on the skill to activate, the timing is quite fine. The animation cancel actually makes it easier. So instead of just simply trying to time out the S and then the hotkey do the lateral attack, and then do the command for Black Spirit Rage, and it will come out a lot easier. Same
Let me try
attack speed, don't think it's a cancel. Yes. I actually got taught this by someone else as well, so...
Am I casting this wrong? It's backwards with right mouse button, correct?
You still got to press L and B first.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Okay. I must be terrible at this.
I find it actually a lot easier. So what I normally do to make it easy for you, Fake, I hold L and B while I laterally attack. I do not let it go. I attack once to whatever direction,
I see.
and then I hold LMB and RMB, and it will transition immediately. So never let go of LMB.
I must be doing this wrong. Well, I'm gonna have to practice that one more. Well, enough.
Yeah,
about,
I'm not sure.
Enough about me.
Anyway,
because I myself don't cast this when grinding, so I don't use this in PvP as well. I'm gonna have to practice that more. So that is great to know for you guys who are much better at casting that than I am. Let's go on to our Spiral Cannon. Another move that is really awesome for transitioning in between Pre-Awakening and Awakening, as well as a good mid-combo dealer. It is a CC and an effective CC as a first CC as well, in some cases when chasing, and it is also a very viable move to use when grinding. Great movement move as well, and there are other moves that play off that Spiral Cannon very well. There's a lot of moves that are very easy to cast after the use of Spiral Cannon. I'll let you take this one away as well.
All right, so a few things I would like to say. One, it is our best CC. It's a KD, knockdown. It'll last 3 seconds on the ground, so if you are, for whatever reason, attacking an opponent and you knock them down, don't stress. It has enough time to land the hit, go back to them, and attack them. It has a few new unique attributes to it, which, while we didn't discuss too much in the previous video, I'll go over it very shortly. Down smashes. We mentioned earlier that there is the ability to CC someone. And as the previous skill, as I mentioned earlier, has what we call an air smash, knocking someone already in the air up again. This skill effectively does the same, but for someone that is on the ground. So if I have knocked Fake on the ground, and I use Spiral Cannon on top of him, as you'll notice, he just got knocked down again. Now, if he decides to move, he'll be able to get up. What down smash effectively does is if you've reached your CC limit, you can still CC them as long as it hits. It has a 30% chance, but that is something that not every skill can do, and it can help in extending combos, whereas you would normally not be able to. Another unique factor is that at any point in time in your pre-awakening, by pressing your Shift key and your your C key, so the one that you'll normally switch to awakening with, you can go straight into Spiral Cannon.
Then
it can be done at any time.
Here we are in pre-awakening, Spiral Cannon.
It will also flow directly out of Knee Hammer, which is our shift and left mouse button in a pre-awakening, and holding it down goes straight out. Other than that, there isn't really much else to say. It does heal on hit. It is a decent movement ability. If you hold right mouse button while doing it, it will actually do another move, which we'll discuss a bit later on. So it can be a very powerful navigation move, specifically if you're under pressure. Mind you, though, it is a completely unsafe move. So use it at your own risk. Use it without being CC'd if possible. Don't just use it because you can.
Lovely. Lovely. I have nothing else to contribute on this other than the fact that it's also a very viable movement skill. We have another move in our skill tree called Ferocious Assault, and we'll go more into detail on that move as we go down the tree. But this move as well is very nice in combination. This being said, with the Ferocious Assault move specifically, you can also direct yourself any direction you want after it is being casted, so you can cast yourself backwards as well. Upon it being Spiral Cannon being a good hit to heal yourself, casting Ferocious Assault after is also a move that heals you, which can sometimes effectively be of good use depending on certain case scenarios. We'll go more into detail on that move in just a moment, though. So let's move over to the right. We have Fallout, and I only have one opinion on this move. I don't think it's necessarily great in PvP. I know there are places that you can use it, but most cases you will not. There are cases where you can use this in grinding because it can be an effective skill after the hotkey use, in my opinion, of one of your rebams, Iron Fist Fury. We'll talk about that move again in a bit as well, but as I cast it, I like some of the damage that I can get off of it. I don't use it all the time in PvE. There are just times where maybe I could, but in most cases, I would lock this.
Yep, locked it, never untouched it. Okay. One little hidden secret with Fallout. Don't ask me why it happens, but if you notice something, Awakening Grab, I miss and I go back. Clone summons. If you don't have Fallout, the clone does not summon. Just a random thing of information there. Don't ask why it happens, but that is a fact of weird information.
Very interesting. Why am I not trying to grab and help?
Because you're not an Awakening.
But I just was, I swear.
Hold S.
Oh, hold S? And while after you miss the grab?
Yep, and then you do the hop back. I'll summon a clone with Fallout, and if you haven't got Fallout, you will not summon a clone. Well, maybe you do now.
Did I unlock it? Oh, it is locked. Okay, that's good to know. Well, if that was a bug previously, then that's...
There we are. Nope, it's fixed. No, it's still there. I've just unskilled it. You have to have it unskilled. So if you notice now...
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yep. No clone. But, yep, moving on from that, that was just a quick little bit of information.
Never knew that either. Well, I have, yeah, since the way I play, I don't use the Awakening Grab. I have that locked in my original tree, right? So I never knew that. The more you know, man.
Oh, good.
I'm loving having you, man. So now we have our dash. This being said, since the first dash, as we mentioned in the previous video, is considered an iframe. In Awakening, I know that that's considered an iframe as well. But the flow of after this, the flash step, the double flash, is a super armor. So 1, 2, 3, those 2 dashes are now a super armor. And that's really all I have to say on that. And then on top of that, the extra consumption of your martial spirit per dash is also, again, an additional super armor. So let's just wait for this to cool down. So I have iframe, super armor, super armor, super armor, super armor. Say that 10 times as fast as you can.
Iframe, super armor, super armor, super armor. Yeah.
So, is there anything else really to discuss on this one, other than the fact that it's
just a mantra of stamina?
I beg your pardon?
Stamina, just on stamina. You'll consume 200 stamina upon use of the double flash, but the following dash will not. So if I dash twice, I've used stamina. That last dash did not take stamina. But other than that, yeah, nothing else really to add. It's movement.
Okay, and then moving down, we're going to touch base on the Ferocious Assault. So as I mentioned earlier, the cast of this move is a reliable super armor. This isn't a lingering super armor, though, is it?
It used to be. It was removed, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was going to say it used to be. So this is also a super armor upon the cast. It is a reliable heal. It can be cast in 3 ways, and this is why I say 3 ways. You can do a short hop like that. You can do a long hop like that. Here, so like so. And then you can also cast this move after Spiral Cannon. And I find that its most effective use is after Spiral Cannon. Because you can use that move even after Spiral Cannon is not on cooldown. There will be no CC. You can still use this move. It'll still consume stamina, but you can use, so let's get Spiral Cannon off cooldown. There you go. So now it's, on cooldown. And I can still use Rampaging Assault no matter what the state of Spiral Cannon is. So that's why I say there's 3 casts of it. You go ahead and do the long jump. I'll do the short jump.
3, 2, 1.
And that is the difference between the 2.
Adding on that, while the landing linger was removed, the landing of the original short hop is completely unsafe. You can be stunned or stiffed or knocked down on instantaneous landing. The landing of the double hop is safe for a split second that you can not get CC'd. But other than that, it's pretty much the same on either end. And obviously you have your BSR version as well, which is just star points.
Oh, that is right.
Let go of the key immediately. Don't actually hold the command. So watch this. This is holding the key. Very little height. And that is you letting go of it.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Love it. Way cool. I still can't
But,
cast
yeah.
Ultimate Crush. Anyways, moving on. Okay, so now we have Flow Crosswind. So this is our explosive reaction to Spiral Cannon. You can cast that. It can be a CC on someone. It can. It's not very long. It gives you a very awkward amount of space sometimes on an engage. It can be very viable in grinding and to use in grinding, I find, in certain moments. And there are some case scenarios where you can use it and you can just put yourself, I don't know, in an interesting position, but just you're going to put yourself back where you started in terms of movement. With that being said, as we take a closer look at Crosswind as well, you can see that it's floating on good hits. It also applies down attack and air attack as well. There's not too many case scenarios where I find I'm going to be using this in any effective PvP combos. I don't know what else you may have to contribute onto that. Knight, feel free to take over.
Look, I did develop a combo with it back in the day where our pre-awakening grab was bugged and it didn't apply the correct CC. Nowadays, you can still use it. I would only use it in one situation. We mentioned before how in our previous videos, some skills were affected by a martial spirit shard. Now, this is actually one set ability that you can make use of it increased damage in PvP. If I do the skill on you now, Fake, and you can look at the damage, there wasn't too much damage done to you.
Bear with, let me just reset that again. We just missed that. Go ahead.
Alright, it's waiting for the Crosswind cooldown. So there's not a lot of damage done. It's probably, what, 200-300 HP with Crosswind on alone?
I think it was around 500 around there.
Okay. Now I'm going to have to get my chi up, so bear with me. I'm just going to kind of...
Yep, go ahead. And then just reset me when you have it.
Okay, well, that kind of reset you and got it at the same time.
Perfect.
So that was good. Now I'm going to do it again, and you can see the difference in damage now that I can use the chi.
A massive
Probably double
amount of damage. Yeah, literally double.
So it's the only skill that really scales well with that martial spirit. So keep in mind, this has also got a down attack as well. If the opponent is on the ground, that damage can stack very decently. And being that it is a float, which is the hardest skill to resist in this game, if I do this to him, and then you can see it's an easy CC to land, and I'm at a safe distance as well. Unprotected, but decent chunk of damage nonetheless.
All right, let's get up here and let's take a look down the tree. Okay, so let's move over to Infernal Destruction. This, again, in my opinion, is another good transitional skill in pre-awakening. In between several different moves. And on top of that, it's a good move when grinding. It is a good mid-combo damage dealer in PvP. There's really nothing else I really feel that needs to say about that. It recovers 10 of your energy on a good hit. Other than that, there's really nothing else to discuss. The reason why I like this, and let's go ahead and lock our Skull Crusher here, is it does make a good transitional skill from pre-awakening to awakening. So if you've used your Skull Crusher already, let's just say, and you use Crouching Wolf, you'll then automatically refer and go to this move. On top of that, after Nimbus Strike, the same move can be casted, I believe. Was that changed?
Somersault. Close. It's Somersault.
Oh, it's Somersault. That's what I was thinking of. That's what it was. Thank you. Thank you for the... Yes, that's what I meant. It can be... It can be casted after Somersault. My apologies. And other than that, it's not... I have nothing else really to say on it.
There isn't much else to add.
Yeah.
It used to be a really good super armor as well, but now it's just a grinding utility. It does a decent amount of damage, I guess, in Awakening. Like if I were to grab you and kind of do it, it does have down attack. But
And there are
I really
some
wouldn't
combos
use it
where
as
people
something.
use it at the tail end of their combos, I find.
Correct.
But other than that, I think that's the short and sweetness of it. If you guys have more to touch on that, feel free to throw that in the comments section. Let's talk about Endless Explosion. I think this is going to be one of our more reliable damage dealers and faster casters
100%.
in the skill tree. This being said, you're going to use this actively in grinding. You will use this in PvP as a mid combo, in my opinion, and after hard hitters and effective moves. That being said, it's a floating on good hits so that it can be thrown into your combo. On good hits as well in PvE and PvP, you can recover a very small portion amount of your health. So keep that in mind as well if you may be doing some healing rotations in certain even PvE situations. And then if you join the Striker Discord, there's a lot of different combos that you're going to notice that this move is also in. There's a lot of variety that this move plays a role in. It's also a good move to use after transitioning into Awakening. You can see how fast it casts on top of that, and it is a hard hitter for Striker, and this move scale on top of it dealing or casting faster than I would say your Ultimate Crush. The Awakening scales really well with Striker's AP, and this is one of those moves that is complemented by it, as far as I'm concerned.
It is definitely one of our harder hitting abilities. A unique feature with the Skull Crusher, not Skull Crusher, sorry, with Endless Explosion. If you obviously notice now, 100% of clones, our bros come out to attack the target. Striker clones have a 100% hit rate. So if a class stacks evasion as a way of defense, that is completely useless to that particular ability. So if you're finding that you're fighting a class that sometimes takes damage, sometimes doesn't, and you're probably guessing, they're probably built around evasion, you can probably do a lot more damage by getting a grab on them and doing that ability along with an Echo Spirit, which is another ability we'll talk about in a moment, to reliably get that damage out without them being able to avoid anything. But other than that, it also heals us on hit as well, which is again something that we can actually utilize because it is used in combo. It's not like our Ultimate Crush, which while hits us, no, Ultimate Crush doesn't actually heal us anymore. Thought it did. No. But yeah, I guess against the Spiral Cannon. Endless Explosion, we do hit it on a target. We will feel the healing. It can be used in a clutch situation, but it is unsafe. And
then even with the healing rotation, which does exist in a Striker, sometimes you can apply that as well. It's situational based though. Landbuster, is there anything else really to talk about this add-on?
More damage of Infernal Destruction.
All right, moving on.
That's about it.
Okay, so going into Echo Spirit, I'm going to let you take away the beginning of this one.
Look, honestly, easiest way to do it. It's a teleport behind the opponent. The initial part of the animation is unsafe. Then it will be a super armor to an iframe transition back into vulnerability. It is also, as you've just witnessed from Fake, if you have a 100% Black Spirit Rage, 100%.
Which puts down a complete blanket of AoE damage and is stupid in Node Wars at high AP. Here is an original cast of the move. And it's also it's a positional move. There's times where, like I mentioned in the previous video, how you can lock onto a player with Crouching Wolf. Echo Spirit is one of those ones where you can actually lock onto a player and position yourself to a point behind them or whatever. So take that with a grain of salt. It takes a while to cast, so you might feel some sort of potential clunkiness just in the beginning. So just be careful with how and when you decide to use that, if you use it in that kind of way. For the most part, you're going to see, again, in the Striker Discord, that a lot of Strikers have thrown Echo Spirit in their Awakening combo. In grinding on high-end mobs as well, it is a great complementer for just putting in extra damage, because you will feel the effects of Echo Spirit if you use something else to complement it.
And obviously in PvE as well, it will stun the opponent. Now, an interesting fact, if you guys are going to be using the 100% When I use the 100% fake, if you can try and do damage to me or grab me, go for it. So you'll notice that he cannot even attack me. 100% for a portion in the middle while you're doing the damage to the opponent is completely iframed as well. So in terms of node wars, as Fake was saying, it is one of the strongest 100% that don't outright kill someone, because there's nowhere to stop it. Once you start, you're pretty much going to be doing the whole amount of damage as long as someone remains in the area. So attacking bases, like fences, obstructions, no one can stop you. At least for like 2 seconds. But other than that, it's as far as it can go. Positional attack. It is used in combos. That's about it, really.
Okay, so the last two things, we're going to leave these add-ons off for a second because we need to talk about the moves themselves. So our hardest hitter, our Skull Crusher, our leg drop. I mean, what else is there to say? It hits hard. It increases your attack speed. Or sorry, those are my skill add-ons. We'll talk about that in a later video. It's a super armor. It applies down attack, so if someone is knocked down and this move is used, it's going to be a disgusting amount of damage on top of that. If you have down attack and you're also behind somebody or even a mob, it's just that much sweeter. This is our hardest hitter. This is what you want to use in PvP after where you would apply, let's say, your debuff. You apply your debuff, let's say you're behind somebody, you have your leg drop, that's where your hardest hitter, I would say, would also be most effective. That being said, the Skull Crusher, in my opinion, is also a great transitional skill between several different moves that we described in the last video, such as your Adamantine with every other flow after, you can use Skull Crusher. With Crouching Wolf, you can use Skull Crusher immediately after, and so the pre-awaken. And the other sweet, beautiful thing about Skull Crusher, and we're going to talk about hotkeys coming up here in just a minute, actually, is that this move can also be applied as a hotkey and used as a transitional skill in pre-awakening. So if you wanted to use, let's say, Rage Hammer in pre-awakening and then going into Skull Crusher, you could definitely do that. Anything else that you want to throw in there, Knight?
Not really. Pretty much covered all bases. It's one of those things that buffs you, debuffs the opponent, hits like a motherfucker. Sorry, excuse my language to all the people that are not meant to hear that.
No, we got demonetized. Oh, all the commercials that are playing us.
Okay, only other thing I'd add is the fact that for any PC players, and I guess console players in the future, it has our most useful Black Spirit Rage version. I don't have enough BSR, so you're going to have to show them yourself, Fake.
50. Now, the beautiful thing about Skull Crusher is that it is a hard hitter, but with our Black Spirit... Am I not getting Black Spirit Rage from... Oh, you got to hit me.
Yes. I was about to say, you're giving me plenty of it right now.
Yeah, hit me. What are you doing? But what I was saying was, our leg drop is not only our hardest hitter, when consuming 50% of our Black Spirit Rage, once that's in for console players, this could potentially not be added yet. Who knows? I have it now. This leg drop move, when consuming our Black Spirit Rage, is a viable CC, and he's knocked down. Get up. I could have done something in between. Here I am dealing damage. And it's a thing of beauty. It is a beautiful thing of beauty, and if you that move in large scale PvP too, the AOE knockdown it's just, oh my goodness. And
the best part about it is you can use it from, as we'll explain later, a hotkey. So, say for example, I'm on top of a node wall tower and you're in the base. I don't even do the actual Skull Crusher there. Give me a second.
Womp 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 womp. Any minute.
Boom.
So right there, if you also can hear it, it makes that sweet kind of sound, and yeah, it's great. But yeah, as he said too, you can use the Black Spirit Rage in transition, and so with what I mentioned earlier, and as he demonstrated with Nimbus Strike, as I mentioned earlier with Crouching Wolf. You can get pretty creative with timing with it, so it's an open canvas of when you want to apply it, and that's what makes the transitional skills between pre-awakening and awakening with Striker so beautiful. I have nothing left to say on that. Is there anything else you want to cover before? And then again, we're going to talk about skill add-ons in another video, so if you guys are curious why we're not talking about this, that is why. Is there anything else you want to discuss on Skull Crusher here?
Not really. It
Okay.
hits hard. It's going to be the thing that people are going to complain about to you, but that's about it, really.
All right, and now we're moving on to Rampaging Predator. This is a move that I have unlocked. This is a move that is a very reliable forward guard, and then on top of that, it's also a move that also heals when having the flow of it unlocked. So those two moves we were discussing earlier, which is one, the Skull Crusher flow, let's just pretty much say this just does a crap ton of more damage, and it can also apply a critical hit rate of 50% in PvP and to yourself. And that being said, the flow bite off complements the Rampaging Predator move, because if you hold the Rampaging move for a longer period of time, that flow spawns a clone, and it also applies a heal. So we'll wait a second to get the flow move here again, and you'll just see as I get a little chunk to move up here. So once again, do this, we look at our health, and we just see we got an additional heal. We pop a pot, and look, we're full health. Anything else you want to say about this? Because I believe this is also a super armor too, isn't it?
Forward guard. But yes, look, honestly, it should hit harder. Use Rampaging Predator more than its spike or flow, unless you're healing.
Oh no, sorry, that's our 200% that I was looking at. It's our special 200% Black Spirit Rage move. So for some people who may be wondering how we get 200%, you would have to have other people give you their Black Spirit Rage when they can transfer it to you, like you're seeing now. And if you got up to 200%, you can cast an even deadlier move. I was getting caught off guard with that. So this original move itself is just a forward guard, but it is a reliable forward guard. And on top of that, it is a reliable engaging move, because you can nearly teleport to people when you cast it. And I've mentioned earlier how some moves, if you get like what I consider a lock on somebody, Rampaging Predator doesn't need that. It's a certain amount of space that it determines, but so there's a certain amount of space that you have to be between people to be able to teleport to them. And a nice complementing factor is that in some case scenarios, not all, you can do this, and sometimes you can get a reliable grab off. So you have so you've started with a damage dealer, you've gotten a good engage, you've got a grab potentially, and now you can start off with some of your strongest hard-hitting combos.
Yeah. Now, adding on to that, I think factor that we've actually covered all of the skills of Striker's Awakening, there's one thing I want to point out. Striker PvP, when it comes to a 1v1, trading isn't very powerful for us. A lot of our skills are choreographed. However, Rampaging Predator, although it's not our hardest hitting ability, is one of our best trading abilities. The reason being is, as Fake said, it's a teleport. It does a decent amount of damage, and it's protected. If you can get off a quick grab from that, it can end the fight very quickly, but it is pretty much our only trading option. Skull Crusher, it's pretty obvious. You can get out of it. Echo Spirit, how long do you want to wait? So it is probably our best option against movement classes to deal damage consistently, because there's not much you can really do to avoid it. So it is something that you definitely want to max.
Rampaging Predator, do our dash, our iframe, and then maybe we have our 3 steps, so 2 additional super armors. So depending on how this the fight is going, what the circumstances are, that will determine this. Now, as we get through the Awakening, we're going to talk about hotkeys just after we discuss the topic of rebams. Now, I'm not sure for console players if you guys have this as Awakening comes out, but you guys will eventually get this. For PC players, this topic is going to be kept with them in mind, though the information will be all the same. So a Revamped Skill is simply just a combination of 2 skills that you would have unlocked already in your skill tree. If you hover over the skill itself, it'll tell you what level it also requires a skill to potentially be. As you see, Flash Step 3 needs to be unlocked, and as we go back to our pre-Awakening, you'll notice that this is the final level of Flash Step. If you look at the one below here, we see Wolf's Fang at 5, and if you look over here, it is the last level before it would be considered absolute. So in order to unlock that, the 2 moves in combination equal the Revamp. You can choose to learn one or the other, and you can go to a skill instructor, I believe, to unlearn skills, as well as using an Armstrong skill guide to manually remove it yourself on the spot. So the good thing about this is you have two options of two different moves and effects. In my opinion, in short of this, I feel like one set is meant for PvE and one set is meant for PvP. That's how I look at it. You have in the pre-awakening, and they're both pre-awakening for Striker here. I believe they're all pre-awakening for every single class. Correct me if I'm wrong here.
Maybe you're correct.
So with this being said, these pre-awakening skills can also on hotkey be reliable transitional skills, which is a beautiful thing. And that being said, you have backstep, which is an iframe, which it also gives us a magic DP increase of 15 for 10 seconds. Increases our movement speed by 30% for 10 seconds, which is really nice. But in most cases, I will use this as a dodge, as an evasion sort of skill. Now you have Rising Wolf's Fang. This is really powerful in PvE. Like, it hits hard as hell in PvE, and it's really great. But in PvP, it's the only long-range skill that Striker has, and as far as I'm concerned, I think it's useless. I think you're better off using a backstep and adding an extra dodge in PvP. Some people disagree and feel that the Rising Wolf's Fang is great in PvP. So take that at your own discretion, or however you want to take it. But that's how I feel in regards to these two. And
yeah, it's too slow.
Yeah, I'll let you throw some opinions on the two moves here. How do you feel about backstep, and how do you feel about Rising Wolf Fang?
Well, as I've always said in the past as well, Striker definitely does not have any lackluster damage. Its burst is huge. We don't need more things that can do damage. What we need is utility. The backstep offers that exact thing. It gives us not only movement, it gives us protection, it gives us a bit more damage reduction against magic classes, it gives us movement speed. Like, that sort of thing complements the Striker incredibly well due to its nature of being quite slow until you get very used to it. So anything that can help in terms of us surviving, moving around the place, mitigating damage, and increasing movement speed definitely does more than a long-range stun, which honestly I'd rather just simply go dash and grab. Like, it accomplishes a lot more. Or simply mass destruction, one or the other.
And at the same time, it's also a good placement skill move as well, because you could go backwards and maybe grab somebody.
One of my favorite actually to do is to either go backwards into Twisted Collision, which is a very quick quick transition. So if I get up, and you can see there, if someone was trying to attack me, not only was I in an iframe, I instantaneously go into a forward guard. Oh yeah. But at the same time, you can also glide that, and I say glide because you don't really get to see a difference in it from Mass Destruction.
Mass Destruction is, I feel like, almost half the length. Sometimes, well, maybe like 70.
But you can blend them. That's the idea.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, you can blend them very nicely on top of all these evasion skills and finesse movement skills. That I need to lock that. But as I mentioned earlier in a previous video, so a lot of food for thought. There is a lot of, in short, there's a lot of very unique, like Cirque du Soleil, like parkour styles of Striker in terms of like protective movement skills. Right. So, and he has a wide variety of mobility. So take that with a grain of salt. And that's where a lot of people will be left with an opinion of their own of what to do best, I want to say. And now, with saying that, let's move on to the next Rabamalam. We have the Iron Fist Fury as well as Perfect Blow. And honestly,
and you and I use one of each.
yeah, exactly. This is totally personal preference on this one.
Correct.
I feel like there's no wrong answer for this. You'll notice that both require Fist of True Strength for level 3, and you'll notice that one requires Fist Fury at level 4 and Knee Hammer level 3, so full levels below Absolute, in case you have Absolute unlocked already. If you don't on console, you guys will be getting that down the road. So anyways, let's stay on track here. So the Iron Fist Fury, I mean, what else is there to say? It does a lot of damage, critical hit rate by 100, accuracy rate by 10%, and it recovers a small portion of health on a good hit, and it's a super armor. As you move down to Perfect Blow, it recovers your energy on a good hit, and it is a forward guard, and it has an increased critical rate of 50%, accuracy by 7, and it hits hard as well. To me, the reason why I use it is I would rather have a super armor and a 360 protection. I don't believe it's a lingering super armor either. Here, let me just
tested. Unfortunately, it's not.
Yeah, let's just confirm on this one because I believe it's not. 2 seconds.
Attack,
1 second, and go ahead. Yep, no, it's not. So, with that being said, I'd rather have a super armor on the cast of it, and I'd rather just have a small chance to recover a little bit of my health. So that would look like this. Not a lot on a good hit, but it's some. It's definitely some. So maybe if I get that in transition with a super armor in transition on a good hit, heals some, then I can grab someone, get a couple pots off, get 1 pot off after I hit them, do my defensive debuff, do Roaring Tiger, get some more health, get my second CC with my Spiral Cannon, get some more health, do Endless Explosion behind them, get some more health. As I've said many times, it's an open canvas for opportunity, and the class itself offers that. That being said, on Perfect Blow, I mean, it's a forward guard. If you're good at using forward guards, you'll be good at diminishing the damage entirely. You recover your energy, and I mean, there's nothing else really for me, in my opinion, to say on that. So it comes down to personal preference. For me, I just like the idea of feeling like I have more reliability of protection with this as a super armor, and that's just me. Knight, you go ahead. Throw your 2 cents in there, my friend.
In the beginning, I would say a lot of people will tend to go for Perfect Blow, and I'm sure you'd agree due to the fact of what skills we're going to be leveling. We discussed earlier, Fist Fury was utterly useless. Like, no one's really going to be using it, and having that required to level, a lot of people are not going to be able to actually use Fist Fury until they're late game, where they have surplus skill points, such as yourself with 2,700, having 400 spare doing nothing. A lot of the time, and in my situation, even though I do have enough skills to use Fist Fury, I prefer Perfect Blow because of the way that I've built myself around that I have 100% crit when I use it. Now, obviously, if you actually look at the multipliers, on a standalone, if you do not crit, Fist Fury will hit harder. But I always crit. My add-ons allow me to have 100% crit rate, so by the time I'm hitting you, I actually have a higher multiplier. With you heal, you have 100% crit, there's no necessary need to obviously worry about trying to get crit from somewhere else to complement that. So it is a matter of preference. There's not really a wrong answer. I believe at endgame that Perfect Blow in a non-Siege War situation would probably be better, but it's up to the individual. I don't have against either one.
And I mean, that is where we are left. So now let's go ahead and let's work our way into hotkeys. Now, I've mentioned this a few times, and it may sound a little overwhelming, oh Lord, hotkeys. And the topic itself is actually tremendously short. Striker has a lot of transition skills that feel nice, and you'll figure that out along the way. And with some examples that we've given, which is, well, the majority. And Striker has, I mean, in my opinion, only 4 hotkeys of transition. And that is with 2 of our Rebams, and 1 pre-awakened skill, and 1 awakening skill. And this is why I keep these on my tree. You may notice that they're mapped a little weird because I have some of them on my mouse. But that being said, you can hotkey, I mean, really any move that you, almost any move that you want, but not every move will work reliably as a transition skill. Like where I can hotkey one move, I might be able to use it when I'm in the stance that requires it to be in, but when I'm in the opposite stance, it won't allow me to use it unless I'm in the stance that it needs to be in. Your Skull Crusher, for example, you can use that as a hotkey whenever you want and no matter what stance you are. So here I am in pre-awakening right now doing whatever I want, adamantine, and then I use Skull Crusher. Like that's not even, like, can't even do that. What the heck? But what's nice is that the skill tree allows you to do that, and if you set Striker up in a way, it's almost like, for me, it feels like it's like the full setup of the class. And unfortunately, the skill tree doesn't tell you, or necessarily every single one that can do that. Your Crouching Wolf, as we mentioned earlier and in the previous video, is a great transitional skill in from Awakening to a Pre-Awakening. So here I am in Awakening, doing my Skull Crusher, and then going into Pre-Awakening by having it hotkeyed. And then, as Knight mentioned earlier, you can, and I didn't know, you can do a shorter cast of casting Crouching Wolf in Awakening and stay in Awakening stance. So use that to your own, I mean, you take that with a grain of salt. So you have your 2 Revamped skills, which can also be set up as a hotkey as well. And I love using Backstep and having that as a reliable dodge in Awakening as well, because it gives me the opportunity to do something, and then get away. Or if someone's coming in, engaging, or whatever the circumstances are, it's a very reliable iframe to get yourself out of whatever. That being said, you have Iron Fist Fury. I have Iron Fist Fury, or your other Rebam. This being said, you can use this as a hotkey. Here I am in Awakening. I go ahead and I Spiral Cannon. I drop my leg, and then all of a sudden I use Iron Fist Fury, like transitioning back into Pre-Awakening. Use Roaring Tiger after I'm in my Pre-Awakening grab. Like whatever you want it to be. I've got my leg back already. I've used it twice in that. So it's really whatever you want it to be, but be aware that these options are also a thing. Another thing that we've talked about with transitions with Striker is that while you're in Awakening 2, you can also, as we mentioned earlier, you can use your Twisted Collision, and any move after Twisted Collision, or even just doing Twisted Collision, you can transition into your Skull Crusher. That being said,
you can also use Twisted Collision
in Awakening. So you can do combinations of Awakening, right, and then go Pre-Awakening, and then after, like, okay, that was a weird uppercut, so bear with me. So I do an Awakening move, and then I go Pre-Awaken. Now I'm back in Awakening, and then I'm back in Pre-Awakening, and then still in Pre-Awakening, and then here I am in Awakening, and now I'm back in Pre-Awakening, and then I'm back in Awakening, and I'm back in Pre-Awakening. Like, he's got really very nice transitional skills that can also make really unique combos if you set it up like that. So that's just another simple food for thought that I wanted to throw out there. Knight, you take it away.
Only a quick thing. As you'll pretty much notice, by pressing C, when you swap, there is a very short 1-second cooldown between switching between Awakening and Pre-Awakening. By using a hotkey that transitions you between stances, you do not have that. As Fake was just doing all that over and over and over, switching between attacks and whatnot, there is no cooldown between his ability to go between Awakening and Pre-Awakening, which, for a class that is innately quite slow, that is something that can save a lot of time. The exception of the rule would be anything that involves C. So in Awakening, we can obviously knee hammer. Now, if you use that in Awakening as Shift C, it does apply not only the knee hammer cooldown as it was used, but also the C swap cooldown, and same per said for Spiral Cannon. But if you use them on hotkey, so I'm in Pre-Awakening, I use Skull Crusher, there was no at all cooldowns. I can straight away just go straight back into C swap or Crouching Wolf, whatever it may be, back into Pre-Awakening without any delay. There's no cooldown, there's no time that I have to wait.
Thus making Striker the open canvas that I continue to describe him as, because you can be very creative with your transitional things, and for me, who I enjoy this class, and for those that enjoy this class, that's what makes it a lot of fun. Honestly, I find myself having a lot of fun, and that's how I get through it. PvE is definitely an acquired taste. Unfortunately, while we don't scale well, our AP doesn't scale well in PvE. Our AP scales tremendously well in PvP. Almost stupid well. Almost to the point almost to the point that they should take just a little bit off and put it onto PvE so I can go grind some endgame grinding spots. But for the most part,
all they need is to give us more attack speed. They could allow our animations to be faster. Would be fine in PvE.
Yeah, but they gave us more attack speed, then we're even more disgusting in PvP. Listen to what you're saying. All right. So this sums up the end of the Awakening tree. Though there wasn't that much to really go through, there was a lot of things that you need to be aware of, I felt. And I hope that this portion of the video has been helpful for you, to you. Make sure again to check out the links in the descriptions down below, because I'm going to try my best to lead you to the right information. A lot of you guys have been asking me to make a striker guide. I don't necessarily think I'm the best person in the world to be making this. However, you guys have asked enough to get my opinion, and this is what it is. And big shout out, big thank you to Knight, the creator of the Striker and Mystic Discord, for being here and helping with this. We're going to be moving on to a third part video that will be discussing the skill tree, like the skill add-ons. And if you guys are interested in joining us for that discussion as well, then make sure to check out part 3. In closing for this video, we're going to be just doing some more duels with Awakening, Rebams, and Pre-Awakening, the full setup of Striker. And we will then carry on from there into skill add-ons. So let's go get set up. I got to reactivate my Villa buff.
Easy.
I'm going to...
I just bought like heap.
I just... whatever, he's right here.
Yeah. Well, this time at least, I think, comparative to the last video, we won't be acting as such of.
Well, yeah, no. Now we know. Now we'll know what we're doing. The pre-awakened fights. If you haven't seen it, go to part 1, which will be included in the description, and go watch those fights. If you want to, like, oh god, if you think we're ass now, go watch that video. All right, I'm ready, dude.
Yeah, ready. Ah. What the? Don't clone. Oh, 100%.
That's fine. No, fuck! I fucked up. Oh, I definitely messed up.
Yep, you used 2 CCs.
Yeah, I did, yeah. Blarg!
Now, just as we're comboing as well, there is actually a combo for all those that are non-soft cap, or at least attaining the Striker when you eventually get your Awakening. That will allow you to really get on the nerve of a lot of players, because you will be able to kill people, oopsies, that are full soft cap or full soft cap DP with less than 200 AP by doing a combo that is in our guide. So enjoy that. Enjoy the wails of all the players that are not able to do that.
Trying to chip away at you. You're so sneaky. Oh, man. I'm dead.
You're sneaky as well. I'm like, I never know if you're going to get...
I don't like doing like our hardest hitting combo, but the combo that I like doing, I can't do on you with this gear. So I gotta like rethink my strat with this with the trial character.
Yeah, I can see that. Because we don't even have the alchemy stone.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. Oh! Fuck! Nice grab, man.
Thanks.
A true master at work. A true master at work. Good fights, my dude. Good fights, my dude.
That was RNG. Lucky.
It was great, though. I appreciate that, man. You kicked my ass in both videos. That's why you're the man, and that's why you're the man who's here to do the manly stuff. Okay, I'm done. Anyways, thank you very much for watching this portion of the video, guys. I hope that this in-depth conversation helps. I'm sorry that it can't be any shorter. I've done my best to provide as much information as I possibly can to provide you with the right information and make sure that I have the right people here to be able to make sure that as much as we can cover is covered. Again, we haven't discussed much on PvE grinding combos. We haven't discussed much on PvP grinding combos. That's why I'm going to continuously encourage you guys to join that Discord. Get in there. Get in there. talk with the Striker Discord community and Mystic community, and you guys are definitely going to be led in the right direction for information and knowledge. If you guys enjoy videos like this, make sure to give it a like. If you don't care for this and you think this is useless, give it a dislike. If you have more to contribute on this, please, that's what the comment section is for. Put your guys' opinions in. I'm going to pin what I feel like will be some of the most valuable information for people to know and help. And thank you very much for taking the time to listen. And we'll be moving on to a third part, which will be in the description below, just talking about the Striker skill add-ons. And that will be in closing my discussion on the Striker Guide topic. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Ciao.